So I'm running this course called Eat Your Life, and how many modules have we done before we've really talked about taste? Now it's time to talk about taste. Food should taste good. Food should taste really good. And the fact is, I mentioned it before, but the scientists and the food people know that we have these three main flavors that we love. And they're very rarely occurring in nature. You got salty, you got sweet, you got fatty. Anything that you find with those natural flavors indicates something in it that we really need and is really useful for our bodies, so we really crave those things. The problem is that processed food has gone over the top. You know, you eat a Pringle, and a Pringle is designed, it's not generally not designed to be sweet, but it is designed for the salt and fat. Right? You take an Oreo, it's designed to be sweet. There are these things that are actually more like drugs, right? Like they're actually delivering a taste, something that we find comforting in a certain way. And I don't think those things are bad. I'm not one to rule out cookies or anything really. But what I have seen and what I have experienced is that through prolonged contact with food that is highly processed, you can actually change your tastes, right? So it's like normal tastes from 100 years ago. It might be like the levels of salt and fat and et cetera were down here, and now the normal levels are here, so that when we eat asparagus, you know, it's like, well, asparagus can't compare to my McDonald's French fries anymore, right? Because my taste buds have actually altered what is the standard. So for me, tasting, and really what I encourage you to do, is get in touch with the taste of your food, the true taste of your food. And I encourage you to start simply. Start with the banana. Start with a piece of steak with just salt. Start with some scrambled eggs. Start with a salad with just lettuce and some oil and vinegar, right? Actually begin to develop or redevelop the subtlety and the depth and the complexity of flavors that are found in nature. And this is extremely important. And you need to consider the fact that you could have actually built neurological patterns that are not tasting the food anymore. Right? That's actually how the senses work. If you look at the neuroscience, we are bombarded by data, right? And a very, very, very minuscule amount of it actually comes into the conscious mind. So actually, consciousness is much more the process of cutting out data we don't need to consciously interpret. It's getting interpreted, right? But we don't need to look at it because it's considered irrelevant, right? So when you eat tons of fatty, salty, sweet foods all the time, you've trained your system into liking these three flavors that your system is designed to love, but you may have lost the flavor for things like mushrooms or a plain sweet potato with no salt or Jerusalem artichokes. And have you tried a Jerusalem artichoke? They're really good. And they have a very delicate, nutty sort of flavor to them, but they're like a root, and so they've got crunch, almost like an apple or a jicama. Have you tried the delicate sweetness of a jicama, right? It's nothing compared to the sweetness of an Oreo, right? The sweetness of an Oreo is way up here, but the delicate sweetness of a jicama and the way that it expresses its sweetness is incredibly unique. And there's a way that the white sugar, when you really taste like straight white sugar, you really start to understand there's very little flavor to it. It is sweet. It is a delivery method. It is very much like a drug. It is designed to give us the flavor of sweetness. But you taste something else, like your sweet potato, your jicama, your apple, and these things are completely different nuances and flavors of sweet. Similarly fat, similarly salt, similarly all the spectrum of all the foods. But you have to begin to truly taste. So for me, this is really what conscious eating comes down to. I was reading about the Dalai Lama, and the Dalai Lama, they say he chews his food 50 times. Every bite, 50 times. I mean, think about that. Try doing that. I mean, it's a really, really different way to eat. It's pretty weird. I mean, the food will be so masticated in your mouth, it's just sort of like, it's very different. But you taste things in a very different way, and you experience a sort of arc of flavors and textures that you often miss if you eat things much faster. So this process of taste is really, to me, truly at the heart of eating. And that sounds obvious, but that's exactly why it needs to be said, because it's not obvious, actually. It's not obvious to truly taste your food, especially as you start cooking for yourself, as you start buying fresh farm ingredients, and you just try the different flavors, and then you go out to a place and you order your French fries covered with bacon and cheese, which I also love. I love all this, but you see how the flavors in these dishes that are prepared and crafted and designed almost to entertain more than to nourish are almost overwhelming at times. And there are subtleties of flavor that can never be really expressed within the potato, the fried potato overloaded with fat and salt and cheese sort of thing. Maybe it's not totally true. I do love my potatoes with fat and cheese, but that is going to be your assignment for today, is that I want you to really truly taste your food. What does an oat taste like? What does milk taste like? What does your coffee taste like? What does an orange taste like? What does your salad taste like? What does your chicken taste like? Everything. Just taste, 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 taste. Your body knows what to do.